Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Al-Badwi and Andy Serling as we kick off a Saturday card. And Talking Horses brought to you by our good friends at Saratoga Springwater. And we have a carryover in the Pick 6 today, an 8-race card on today's card. Pick 6 will begin in race number 3, 75,000. And I said this in the show yesterday. Yesterday's card was a very good example of why this harmful notion that the way to make money playing multi-race bets is to leave out short-priced horses, why it's burying people who are following it intensely, and how a pick 6, a pick 5, a pick 4 can blow up based on just the result of one race. And it was an odd situation because the winner of yesterday's 7th race was probably closer to 30-1 because you scratched a favorite going into the gate. And a horse that some of us might have included a little more if you knew the 7 wasn't running. But regardless of the general sense, when you see those situations and those kind of payoffs are not dictated by 2 or 3 short-priced horses winning. They're dictated by 1 to 2 bigger-priced horses winning. And yesterday's card was a perfect example of that.
Exactly. We're talking about St. James, a horse that was a big price that was able to get the win. And sometimes you really only need one when you're being creative in the spots where you're finding those bigger prices to include on your ticket. And if you are successful in adding those horses, you can easily get yourself to a much bigger payout, even if you have some shorter prices throughout.
There's this completely inaccurate notion that you're saving $12 and $24 and here and there. What you're doing is you're costing yourself thousands of dollars in potential wins. And as my friend Steve Christ has always said, and Steve's had a lot of success playing pick 6s in his day, and I've been there, I've seen it. The idea is to win. You don't worry about the payout. You worry about winning. And I'm sort of speaking for him, but he's basically said as much. You know, the idea is to hit it. You'll worry about the payoffs will take care of themselves. And there will be short payoffs in there. But you know, you're trying to get to the end. You want to have a chance to win. Anyway, hopefully you have a chance to win today. 75,000, I think 633. We'll take a look at that slate in a minute, but we'll start out by telling you to get over to NYRA Bets. Get your butt over to NYRABets.com. If you're not a member, now is the time. You didn't know this? Is that Randy Hill Silks? It's a weave.
It's door knock.
That's door knock?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You say it like I should have known.
Obviously.
Shouldn't he be covered in dirt?
No, he was on the lead the whole way, remember?
Okay. It was still kind of wet out. I mean, he had some dirt on him.
Well, maybe they photoshopped it out.
I don't think so. Maybe it was his maiden win. Anyway, no, that was a Keeneland. Anyway, bonus 200. We'll match $200. Check out Track Stats while you're over at NYRA Bets as well.
Who is that?
We have, it's Joel Rosario and a lot of hearts. Joel's got a lot of love. He's a man of great love, Joel Rosario. Maybe it's just sort of hearts.
Maybe those are just stickers
emanating from his head, you know, just all that love.
He's just thinking about all of his love for the game and all
love
of us.
Love for everyone. He's a wonderful man, Joel Rosario. To know him is to love him. What else do we have? We have a 2-day pick 6 carryover, 75,633.
3 Technique.
And there you go. That's right. That's the one that you knew. 3
Yes.
Technique. Okay.
He is covered with the right amount of dirt.
Well, he was closing. So I don't think it was wet that day. What else do we have? We have a $15 bonus, 50 or more at Aqueduct, Opal, and Santa Anita. Opt in. Just texting with the voice of Santa Anita and the voice of Saratoga as well, Frank Miramati.
Wow, how's Frank doing?
Oh, Frank. Frank's Frank.
Love Frank.
You know, Frank's Frank. Frank's always doing. What he's doing is another question. Cross Country Pick 5 kicks off at 4:31, and precisely. Race 7 and 8 here, and 8, 9, and 10, including the Whitmore, down at Oaklawn Park. And we have a show. 1, 2, 6. FS2. Race number 1. So, what did you do in race number 1?
I picked a horse that was just dropping from a slightly tougher level, and there have been situations where this horse has been helped by the racetrack in Roja Ligera, but there have also been situations over her past maybe 4 or 5 starts where she was kind of against the racetrack and still ran pretty well, namely November 19th, where she still ran well to be second, where speed and being forward was good. And I just felt as though she was a horse that, I know Timeform US has her so far back of this field, but I don't think she's going to be so far back of this field if she has any opportunity to do anything.
Yeah, it is interesting what you're saying about her position. She doesn't really have the speed to be close. Whether or not that's relevant or not, I mean, the speed is supposed to be Maggie T. We've got her third. I guess she could win. I obviously agree with what you said about Rojo Lugera. I think she fits in this race fine. I'm laughing because her owner gave me a hard time because apparently I suggested that they're low-profile connections. Would you be happier if I just said the trainer was 1 for 42 last year? Trying to be nice, not trying to be rude.
Low profile isn't a negative.
No.
It's not an insult.
No, not at all. I'm
Numbers
not
are numbers.
knocking Norman Follett. He's doing the best job he can with the horses he has. And in fact, I'm the horse that ran third, Racing
Colors, my
Racing
friend.
Colors, right?
Yeah.
Who I picked when she lost, and then I was out the day she won and did better. But
Yeah,
so it's not.
She
it's
ran
not-
well
it's not-
yesterday.
It's not an insult. Sometimes people are low profile. It doesn't mean that they're bad.
Right.
In fact, it isn't even in any way intended to mean bad.
No, it's
I
just
have different euphemisms for
statements.
bad. So
If you think
beware
someone's
of them.
bad, you'll hear.
Yeah, and this horse, I agree with this horse, absolutely fits in here, and the same reason that Lockbox does.
Yeah.
I think Lockbox might be a little better, and I will say that Lockbox was a little against it last time, and probably a little more against it on February 4th than Rojo Lugera did and ran better that day, but I took them as well, the 2 drops downs in here, because a horse that, and we'll see how much money Devilly takes, and maybe Devilly won't take much money. She was 3-1 morning line, though. You look at her win last time, and the thing about it is twofold. She was beating up on, believe it or not, weaker than this field. And it's tough to win these conditions at this level, back to back, especially when you just won your second time in your 32nd start. And Jimmy Farrar's been having a great winter here, but his horses aren't necessarily reproducing from one race to the next. And that's something I've kind of noticed.
And that's what I was kind of worried
hard to
about
do.
with this horse, is that she spent so much quality time at that non-winners of 2 level. I know her last 2 races seemed to be fairly decent, but I also think that this might be a slightly tougher field than she faced last time.
A lot tougher.
And this is a horse that, after taking all of that time, do I really want her at a short price to get
win 2 in
win
a row?
number 3 out of 33?
2 in a row
Exactly.
in her 32nd and 33rd start.
So she could win, but she wasn't for me.
On the other hand, if she remains around 5-1 and you like her, I'm not going to knock you. The question is if she's one of the favorites in here, and David Hatter is the second choice in the line. And you can see from David's line, what he's essentially saying with the odds is, yeah, he'll probably get a couple of them wrong, but he's just saying it's a reasonably well-matched field from a betting perspective.
You know
with a
who he
5
picked
to 2,
in this
3 to
field?
1. Who he picked?
Yeah.
No.
Luna Loca.
Okay. Good luck, David. Well, David, I want to say to David, who fortunately I think he's feeling better. He's been had a bad flu.
Oh, no.
You missed the boat yesterday with Marcelo, because he's been picking a lot of Marcelo's horses. But you missed the boat yesterday. We were actually texting after that race because that was a horse that was interesting. That was a race where I would love to have had a chance to handicap and bet that race, knowing the 7 wasn't going to run. But there's
Right.
only so much you can
Hey,
do.
there's one race Luna Loca has that wins this race, and there are several that
There's
don't.
probably one race for all of them that win this race. I'm not knocking any selection in this race. And I'm certainly not knocking David's selections. His record speaks for itself. Race
Certainly.
number 2. So I think race number 2 is a race where people are going to make decisions about Memento Me and Shoop There It Is, who are coming out of a race which fell apart in the late stages. And I don't want these horses. Now, it doesn't mean they can't win, but for my money, neither one of these horses were really doing much running. Memento Me was on the rail and sort of angled out in the turn, got a pretty good trip. Shoop There It Is. Were either of these horses really running, or did this race just absolutely and totally collapse
And
in the last 16th of a mile?
Didn't the 7 run the best race of anybody? Truly, I mean, the horse that was around from
Oh, the horse that
start
was
to the
second
finish.
was an hour the best. This was a
Absolutely.
horse that actually
Joey
David
the
liked
Fish
and
won,
should have
and
won.
yeah.
This race completely incinerated, in my opinion, the finishes, and you seem to somewhat agree because you don't
Yeah,
have them
I
in
don't
there
like
either. Their finishes are more a result of a race falling apart. You've taken the number 2, Ice Love.
Taking a crazy horse. Look,
Correct.
she's just been facing a different planet of horses in that March 3rd start. The state bred non-winners of 1 allowance. She was also off a little bit of a freshening in there. And her race here on December 31st, that was a day where speed was fairly dominant. The rail was an advantage. This is a horse that broke a half step slow, remained towards the back of the field, and never at any point saved any ground. So I think that she's better than those last 2 races potentially indicate. Whether her best is enough to compete here, big question mark. But I feel
No,
as
actually,
though-
it's not that big a question mark. It's not. What race does she have that could win this race?
well, she can at least go a distance of ground.
Well, they can all go a distance. I can go a distance of ground. It takes a long, long time
see
for
you
me
at
to do it,
at
but
the end
but
of the show
but I might have
today
to bring
out
along
there.
a couple of Saratoga waters.
Yeah.
But
Get a little backpack,
the problem,
hydro pack.
listen, she's 100 to 1. Good luck with her. But this is a $5,000 non-winner 2 lifetime horse for Finger Lakes. So you're telling me that she's dropping out of tougher spots? Yeah, she was badly placed in her last 2 spots. She was,
Here,
or
yes.
last time. Well, she was badly placed for 14 too. But
Yeah.
so the problem is listen, she's a huge price, and I'm just going to get in trouble knocking huge prices. But what race does she have to get back to, especially in New York, makes her in Naira, that makes her competitive?
That is the question. I mean, she
She ran a $5,000, not $5,000
I
bottom level
know.
Finger Lakes non-winners of 2 lifetimes.
Hey, I will say though that some of the horses out of her past 2 races here, the 3rd place finisher, Embraceable Gal, she won her next start, dropping in for a $10,000 tag. Joey the Fish cut back and won her next start that we watched.
okay.
Synonymous ran 3rd in that next race. I don't want to completely write off that she might be better than those races suggest and could at least be around in this one.
Okay, she's a humongous price, so I wish you the best of luck.
Thanks.
As far as Smoking Hot Kitty, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't love anybody in this race. And I probably, I cannot take Shigeko, who just doesn't win. And I know she won, but it was in a sloppy sealed track. She seems to
So
be
with the
better with
race
moisture.
flow.
She'd be right. She looks better with moisture in here. Also, the question is a little bit with distance. Maybe Smoking Hot Kitty. Now, getting a distance on the turf is not the same as doing it in the dirt, but the reality is she's the one who's been facing significantly better horses than these and at least running competitively enough. I'm not proud of picking her, but I'm not picking Fancy Feline to win at a mile, though she obviously faced better last time. I just don't really know if she's a miler. I have her included in here. I didn't want the 4 and 5, the 5 and 6,
Right.
so I went Smoking Hot Kitty. I didn't know she'd be 8 to 5. She is who she is. This is not exactly a compelling field.
No, it's not. I mean, this is a horse that can be forward. Her race is 2 and 3 back. They're
I'm
just
getting a
faster.
flashback looking at that graphic from Oakland. It looks like a quilt, doesn't it? My mom
Yeah,
is a quilter.
It looks like Jonathan's
Looks
shirt.
like, yeah, it looks like my read that. I feel like I'm having a flashback to Dead shows in the 80s. Race number 3.
There might be some more colors in there.
I don't know. It's close. Race number 3. So we'll take a look at a replay. Oh, there it is, Eddie, right on top of it.
He knows.
We'll take a look
He
at a
knows.
replay of
Savage Spirit.
Savage Spirit, who I imagine is the favorite. I assume David made this
Yes.
horse the morning line favorite, running 3rd here. I mean, to be fair, the rail was good. The track was fair. The rail was a little bit of an advantage, perhaps. I don't have a big knock against this horse. I just don't really feel like taking him really at a short price in here, but he's the horse to beat.
Oh, 100%. I mean, this horse is taking another drop in class. This 3rd place finish was more than good enough versus what anybody else has done in this field for the most part and who he faced. Retail Man will turn to win his next start with a 50 buyer. He was another horse that had been off the rail in that January 6th start. And when you look at Horacio De Paz's numbers, dirt sprints routes with maidens, he does very well stretching these horses out. He's 8 for 25, $2.47 ROI over the past 5 years. So you have to think that he's at least capable of getting this horse to go a little bit further. And while the dam side's a little more turf and sprint, Accelerate on Top does better with his dirt routers.
Yeah, I'm not going to play him. I would use him in the pick 6 as an A. But I picked against him the race. What's the deal with Hair on Fire? Speed?
Basically, I mean, the first time he was dropped in for a tag last out, speed was very advantageous that day, and it was sort of that merry-go-round race where you really like the horse that ended up finishing second at a big price. And I just feel as though he's a horse that might be faster than Arco Augusta and draws to the outside of him. So could get himself into a good position in here, and I think that they're realizing where he belongs from a class level. He could be competitive in this type of field.
Yeah, I don't like him, but I can see your thinking in there. I'm just not a big fan of his. I was going to pick either the 1 or 7 in this race, and Manny Penny, Mary Alice Coffey won the race here the other day.
Yes.
I thought the horse ran fine last time, but I have to give Irie Mon another chance. And one of the problems with him is drawing the rail. I hope that Charlie and Isaac Castillo get together and try to formulate a plan to get this horse off the inside, because he has been jammed on the inside race after race, and he doesn't particularly necessarily want to be down there. So if they can find a way, he's not that slow, be enough forward and get him off the rail in this race, I think there's a chance he'll run better. And never had a chance last time to get out of the inside. And he is a horse that was against the track in his first start in a live race. He was against the track in his second start. First start, I'm not exactly sure, actually. It's the second start. First race,
Well,
he
he's
ran against a very
overmatched.
live field. Then he was against the track in his second start. This horse, one of these days, isn't going to get unlucky, and he's going to run much better. Whether or not it's today, I don't know, but I'm married to betting him again. I wish he drew post 7 and Manny Penny drew the rail. It wouldn't have hurt Manny Penny, but it would have definitely helped him. I'm going to use them along with Savage Spirit, but I'm going to bet Irie Man again. I'm determined to lose so much money on Irie Man that when he finally wins and pays $23, I'll need to bet a lot of money on him to get even.
Yeah, he wasn't for me, but his numbers relative to this field, they're competitive.
Right, they fit, and he hasn't had the right trips. That's the thing. So you've got a horse that's still good enough to win, and he has not gotten the right trips. Big scratch in race number 4, and we'll take a break after race number 4. With Secret Rules coming out, you've taken away a horse that was not only a major contender, but also a very forward horse in here. And it's going to negatively affect the morning line favorite.
Yes,
and
it
I'll
will.
see if he's favored, and a horse you have on top, and I scratched into for second.
I didn't want to change my picks and pick the same horse as you. There's no value in that. But I think that with the scratch of Secret Rules, you have to take a much longer look at Midlaner, a horse that's going to have some forward position in this race, while Ouster is not. And Ouster is harmed by this scratch quite a bit because he's a horse that does come from off the pace and a horse that typically had more success going longer than the sprint distances of 6-7 furlongs, and he's running the 7 today. The good Ouster should win this race. Whether or not he's going to be that horse, who knows? Coming off of the layoff that he is, off of a very disappointing performance. When you look at horses that Mark Hennig has brought back off 180 plus days, it's not the biggest sample size. It's not an overwhelmingly positive stat. But when you look at routes to sprints only, 3 for 9 sample of horses, many of them big prices. And only one horse I saw was under even money in that sample size. So he's not bringing back the types of horses that look like Ouster.
But he's a short price.
He
and
is.
That's the problem. You're not, you can give all those stats you want. You're still dealing with a short price. And I don't disagree with you. His best race would make him extremely hard to beat in here. The problem is, chances he runs his best race here seem fairly minimal. Doesn't mean he's not going to run well enough to win.
Sure.
But the chance he runs his
But
best race
things
here.
are even more against him with this scratch.
They
so
absolutely
I just didn't want
are.
to pick the same horse as you, and I kept him on top. But
Well, I like Midlaner regardless. I'm sorry the Secret Rules scratch because
Right.
I couldn't care less if he's in the race. I still like Midlaner in here because, in my opinion, as we take a look at Midlaner's good race on 223, I think he ran extremely well in this race. This was a race that ended up falling apart and setting up for Stolen Base, and I think Stolen Base is good. And the reason he didn't run well in his next start, he doesn't like a wet track. So you get this horse on a dry dirt track. I think Stolen Base is pretty darn good, and he just got a great setup. And this was a day where it just seemed like horses were getting the right setups and making closes in there. I thought he ran extremely well in here. And while his figure, his buyer figure dropped, his Timeform US figure did not really drop. In fact, it went up because he was engaged much more in the pace. And I thought his effort against Listen to Your Heart, even though he was down on the good inside, thought he ran well that day. And now he's in a much more comfortable forward position. So he's obviously even better now. He's also going to be a much shorter price as a result of that. I think the question in this race becomes Beachwalker.
Yes.
And as we look at his last race, and he may win, but once again, where exactly did this race come from for David Jacobson? He claimed his horse from Ready Persaud. He ran a 77 and a 47 buyer. Now, okay, he was fractious in the gate, he didn't break in his start 2 back, but where did this effort come from with the 88 buyer based on his PPs?
Clearly, they showed him the video from his December 28th race where he ran 3rd behind Kinetic Sky.
In the
we're
mud.
like, do this again.
In the mud, when Randy's horses for 2 weeks were exploding off the screen. I just don't. I don't know what to do with David Jacobson as a trainer with his horses. Forget about as a trainer with his horses.
And this is already an unreliable horse.
Absolutely.
So-
He runs his last race. He's got a big shot to win this race.
He does.
I'm not sure he's going to win, but he's a big shot. But I don't know what to do with this horse. But he did run. He did run pretty well last time.
I wouldn't leave him out of my pick 6, but I don't know what to do with him either.
Be a C for me.
C, yeah.
Yep. I would lean on Midlaner. We'll see what happens in race 4, late pick 4, and it starts the late pick 5. Late pick 4 starts in the 5th. We'll be back after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albonwe and Andy Serling. Thanks to Saratoga Water as well. Race number 5. I decided to go a little off the reservation, race number 5, because I'll be honest with you, I don't love any of these horses. And to be fair, Barnstorming probably is the horse to be in the drop down. I don't have a big knock on him. He's an absolute A. He's the horse to beat. We both put him second, but I just didn't want to put him on top.
No, I didn't really feel like there was a lot of value to me putting the 6-5 obvious drop-down favorite on top in this race, but he can certainly win this race. He's been running against much tougher company over his last several starts since he was claimed for this barn, and now I think they're just being realistic about where he belongs.
He was also in a competitive pace last time, and in dueling with Noda, who came back and ran very well last week. I don't have any real knock on him. I can tell you right now, I will not hit the pick 6 if you pick the winner of this race.
Look, this is a horse that I feel has been kind of frustrating because we're not likely to see that giant race that he ran at Monmouth ever again.
Yeah, I think we've established that 86 won't happen again.
It will not happen.
Good point. Power and Numbers, though, running over in Saudi Arabia. I think Power and Numbers was in the Saudi Cup.
Oh, was he really? Mm-hmm. Wow, okay. Well, February 29th.
He's finishing now, actually.
Not a dead rail day, but we did see horses making more of those outside runs, have more success, and he was the inside speed with the top 2 in that race making wider moves, and he was also running back on relatively short rest that day as well. Then in the race 2 back, he had a more contentious pace. There were other horses applying pressure to him. He applied pressure to Bargaining Power, who caved before he did. South Street ran second in that race, but he was with the race flow as the pace started coming apart in the later stages. And the start before that, maybe a little bit short for him. He was also coming off a lengthy layoff. I don't love this jockey change, but I think that there's a horse that's rounding back into some of the better form and can be forward in here and maybe looks a little bit better than his last couple of races, though he will have to be quite a bit better to beat Barnstorming.
I completely disagree with you on this horse. And
didn't you pick him one time?
So what?
No.
I've picked every horse at some point in their lives. That was at best a $16,000. Look at I Love Cara, who finished second in there, to get an idea of how bad that race was. Right. That was about as awful a field for that level as we'll ever assemble in New York, and about 30 horses that weren't even in the race hit the wire together in that field. I get it. I understand what you're saying about being in front. There was a bit of an outside flow. I don't disagree. I don't know the rail was bad. He was down towards the inside. I get all that. But this is a race that has multiple drop downs,
yes,
including Barnstorming, including Independent Paul, that seem better. And even South Street, and we'll take a look at South Street because he is off the claim for Jacobson. And I'm not going to be surprised if he runs well. We'll take a look. I think this is his race 2 races back where he ran second. Problem with him is he's a 1 for 20 with 5 seconds. But even a horse like South Street, he's just a better horse and running against better horses than the Arabetto field. For me, the Arabetto field was just a nightmare.
That's a fair point. Isn't he pace compromised, though?
I don't. Who?
South Street.
Not in this race.
No.
I don't know. The pace projector has him sitting 4th.
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
They are adding blinkers. Maybe they'll get him into position.
I don't like him. I picked him 4th. I think he can win. My point is that all these horses are better, and even we'll go to Independent Paul. We'll show him breaking his maiden. I mean, Independent Paul is absolutely the second likeliest winner of this race. I know he got a big pace in his favor in this race, and he also got a very good trip. The rail was good. He sat in the rail. He angled out. He got a big pace. But he also ran an 81 Beyer. And, things didn't go well in his last race, but, he might as well have been running in a Breeders' Cup race last time compared to these.
To this, sure.
So, these are horses that can absolutely win, whereas trying to get an Arabetto home. Now, listen, I'm saying all this, and I picked a horse that might lose to Arabetto, and he's probably a bigger price in the morning line than Arabetto. However, my horse has been running, what a blast, against horses that are also in a different stratosphere.
Yes.
He caught a sloppy sealed track last time out. Okay, the time before that, I mean, he ran in that race, the Cloud Forest race, where the pace did somewhat fall apart. The Cloud Forest was on the pace, but he went to the lead in there, and he was aggressive. He was 30-1. Look at the prices he's been. He's been gelded from you, obviously. Well, I would say that you kind of agree with me, but then you picked Arabetto, but I'm teasing. I don't love What a Blast, and I was going to pick either the 6 or 3. And I just thought to myself, I'm going to pick the race 3-6-1 or 6-3-1, put the 1 on top. It's going to be a bit of a price. He's been in impossible spots since Carlos claimed him. He does have somewhere in there races that give him a chance to be competitive in this race. And I just wanted to take him at a slightly better price. But I think, this race where for pick 6 purposes, I'd probably go A36, B1. And South Street a C, but I'm going to bet this race individually. I'm going to lose some money on What a Blast, but I'm not going to have a huge
all
percentage
your
of my
eggs in
play.
his basket.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, let's face it, Barnstorming or Independent Paul, don't they feel like they're going to win this race a fairly high percentage of the time?
I don't love Independent Paul, but
Because
he has been facing a
he's
world
not
of
really
better.
independent.
I just hate the name Paul. No, just kidding. No, I feel like he was helped by the racetrack.
I'm telling LaDuca you said that.
What?
I'll wait until
No.
late in the show.
Come
I
on.
won't
He
tell
was
until
already
after you're on
upset
the air.
today.
Anyway, he's always upset.
It's a joke. I love Paul LaDuca and Paul Verderosa for that matter. Look, I feel like he was helped by the racetrack when he got that big win, and I feel as though he also got the pace setup in that race. And I don't really think that we're going to see anything resembling an 80-something Beyer yet again. Yes, he was overmatched last time. That was a much better field compared to anything he's facing in here. But I don't know if he's as good as that first race, or maybe even 20 points less than that suggests.
Yeah, I'm going to say he's better than 20 points less than his win.
Okay.
I don't love him either. I picked him 3rd. But I think he's very much the second likeliest winner of this race. I'll tell you who I would single.
Yeah.
I would single Gallia Princess in the
I would
next
too.
race. And we'll take a look at the start of her last race and the stretch run. And I'm not complaining. I bet on the winner, but I don't think I bet the best horse that day. I think that Gallia Princess was the best horse that day.
I think so too. I mean, not breaking all that sharply. She really had to make that move, to expend that energy, to go up to the inside of Reconcile and keep her position instead of taking back and getting lost in behind horses. And then after putting Reconcile away, she still battled very gamely throughout with a horse that got a great setup, who we both have some respect for and think is a quality 3-year-old filly. And now she's cutting back slightly in distance, and I don't think they're going to do the same thing twice, where they go up, they engage the pace, and...
You don't think she's going to be in front here?
Gallia Princess?
Yeah.
Isn't Reconcile going to be in front?
Not necessarily. I mean, if Gallia Princess breaks sharply, she'll be in front. She's got the rail. They kind of have to go. I mean, I suppose if the other horses are going too fast, you got to be very careful about rating the best horse from the rail at 4 to 5. Did she lose the race because she was in the pace, or did she lose the race because she went 7 against a better horse who got a better
don't know.
trip, or a horse who's comparable in talent?
I think you could kind of argue that it's possible either way, and I'm definitely not the only one that thinks that they're going to stalk today.
Tough to stalk from the rail.
Yeah.
If she drew an outside post, I get it. I think they have to leave and go. And if, listen, like I said, if Reconcile or Miss Harriet want to be aggressive in here, that's fine. But if they're not,
I feel like they must be, right? I mean, these are horses that have done their best running on the lead, no?
they're not that fast. None of them are that fast.
Well, nobody in this field is fast.
Well, that's the whole point. That's why the one can wire the field. When you've got the rail and you're 4 to 5 boarding line and probably 3 to 5 if you knew the 3 wasn't running, you've got to be very careful about getting overly cute.
Well, tell David Grenning in his article that...
Well, it's not David Grenning.
No,
He's
I'm
repeating
kidding.
what somebody told him. It's not
Well,
Dave.
I also think that they might try a different tactic too, and we could all be completely wrong. So there's always that. But I think that
I'll tell
no
you
matter
this-
what, we think she's the best horse in this race,
The
don't we?
stupidest thing that they could do, and Manny never thinks this way. So if this happens because Manny's been absolutely told to do it, is to come out of the gate expecting to rate. And I remember a case last summer where I happened to have been in the paddock while some nebulous instructions were being given to Manny on a horse that felt like it was probably the speed. And I didn't say anything. It's not my place. And he wired the field. And when they came back to the winner's circle, I said to Manny, I was so afraid with those instructions. And he said to me, I was never going to rate this horse. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't rate this horse.
Sure.
But he's
It
got
means
the
he's
rail
thinking.
with a horse that is potentially is the fastest of the 3 speeds. You don't come out saying, I'm going to grab her, and you get into that problem last week, which was not the rider's fault, down in Florida in the Hillsborough, where Junior Alvarado was riding a horse that should have been loose in the lead, and he snatched out of the gate. And when you see him snatch out of the gate like that, he's riding to instructions. He's
Yeah,
not doing
they
it his
didn't
own.
want Elusive
And
Princess,
how
right?
did that work out for her? And
Yeah.
she would have been in the winner's circle getting her picture taken. So I get what you're saying, but you got to be able a little bit to just come out running, and if they're going to go faster, let them go. But I can't imagine he's going to. Oof, what a scary thought. I think it would be. I know she rated inside to win her debut,
She did.
but I wouldn't take her back. Now, Miss Harriet, do we think Miss Harriet's good enough? You do. See, I think Reconcile will run better today.
Do you?
I
With
do.
the cutback?
She's better than her last race, and she's coming back. I'm going to guess something went wrong,
Okay.
but I'm not going to knock this horse. She's improving with all her starts.
This horse is fine. I mean, this horse has been impressive over her last 2 races, and even when she debuted in that restricted stakes race, she was 60-1 that day, and that's the race where she passed another horse. And so knowing that she's at least capable of doing that and winning a race, I think is good for her going forward. Maybe not for this race in particular, but down the line for her, wherever she ends up, it's good to know that she isn't that need the lead type, because she's been on the lead in her last 2 races.
Well, apparently she's going to be in the lead here. Maybe they'll just gift her the lead, and she'll walk on the front end, and Galea Princess will lose.
Triple carryover if that happens, I think.
And I'm not blaming anybody, but whoever thinks that she's going to have to rate from the rail
I
to
don't
win
think
this
she has
race
to
is
rate.
crazy.
I think she
She
could.
is better than these horses. Let her run. Her last race with Miss Harriet is a little bit hard to read, right? Because the second horse not very good, right? She ran a 52 with 64 and the 75 Beyer. The third
Other
horse,
horses, though.
well, she ran a 62 Beyer, then she ran that weird 84 Beyer, and then a 73.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit dubious of how good they really are, but we'll see what happens. But Galea Princess. Now I'm scared that I'm going to rate her and she's going to lose. Race number 7. So I kind of blew it and forgot to send the replay in race number 7. And
I was surprised that you weren't showing this horse.
well,
there's not much to show after the start,
It's
but-
a little bit complicated why I didn't show it. But forgetting about that, we'll take a look at the horse who's the second choice in the board, the number 4, winning last time out. And listen, you can't knock. This horse ran a huge figure last time. Can she run this race again? That's really the question.
I mean, if she does, she's a major player, but there's a real question whether or not she can repeat it against a tougher group, because she ran into some horses last time out that just can't run anymore. And you and I each picked one of them, and they were not very good in this race. And she came up with a performance
Which
where...
horrible horse did we pick in the end?
I think I picked Jolly Miss Jill. Maybe you picked Will Be Famous or somebody else.
No, I didn't pick Will
No.
Be Famous. I think somebody ran badly too. Yeah, you picked
Yeah,
Jive Jill I didn't
I did.
like. And I
Yeah.
picked somebody that ran badly. Yeah. that
Anyway,
sounds right. Was I here that day?
Yeah. And then we talked about this and you were like, where did that race come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She ran it. I don't
did.
know if she's going to run it again.
The only thing with her that I couldn't completely say she has no shot is that she should get the right kind of trip in this race, stalking, no?
The pace projector has her farther back. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, Ghost Bustin'. She is the speed of the speed in here, and she's obviously better with the lead. We'll show her race where she broke her maiden, and Foxy Cara ran second. I have 2 problems with her. I think Foxy Cara ran a better race than she did this day, because the rail was good and Foxy Cara circled the field. And I just feel like when Ghost Bustin' has run well, she's really had things very much her own way. And while she may end up being the speed of the speed in here, I'm not so sure it's going to be that easy.
I thought that there were going to be other horses that wanted forward position, like George's Vice, like perhaps Mim adding the blinkers as well. And Little Lindsay isn't slow early either. And I think we saw last time that when she's not able to have everything her own way, it doesn't really work out for her. Now, that was a race that featured some good horses and a very honest pace in there. But the thing about her is she's been a short price in all of her starts so far, and she figures to be one again.
Well, she also was involved in the pace with Newsley last time out, and she had better position the racetrack than her, and she lost to her. So that's a little troublesome to me, to be honest with you. And Newsley was just a big price, I think. She
Yeah,
almost
that
like
was a
29 to
tough
1
beat.
or something.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the reason I didn't show the replay on Easy Play last time.
Okay.
Because I didn't like her because she stumbled last time. Now, if anybody wants to go back and look, the stumble by Easy Play was as bad a stumble as you'll ever see. I'll let you
So
talk about
significant.
her.
I mean,
Frankly,
I'm
Hernandez
impressed.
deserves an award for staying on
I'm
her.
impressed that he stayed on. I'm impressed that she remained upright at all
It was-
after
it
that
was
and
a-
did
reminds me
any
of
running.
there was a Judmon horse that stumbled like that on her belly once, I remember.
That's one of the worst ones I've really ever
You
seen.
can't stumble without losing the rider and going down any worse than this.
I mean, yeah. And then when you look at her last 3 races, they're all over a wet track. They might not be able to compete here. But if you go back a little bit more on the page, this is a horse that was running some good races relative to the competition she was facing, running against True Empress and hitting the board. That big upset third at 52-1 at Saratoga, then the wins before that at Finger Lakes. I mean, this is a horse that over last summer into the fall was in pretty solid form, and maybe she doesn't like the wet track quite as much. And then last time, just draw a line right through that.
And I'll tell you something else. Whoever came up with the plan to rate her 2 races back should probably not be giving instructions either, because that was foolish. She is a better horse when she's forward. I'm not saying she has to be dueling for the lead, but she shouldn't be taken back and let her run. And that was one of the things I noticed about her, and I agree, the wet tracks, the back form. So I thought she was sort of interesting anyway, and then I looked at her last race, and I said, what happened? And I had already sent the replays, because I try to send the replays in fairly quickly so the people here can get a jump on it. And
definitely
I don't always finish handicap. I'm not even close to finishing. I mean, I'm not even close to finishing when I send the replays in. And then when I started digging more and more into this race, I saw the replay, and I'd already sent the replays, and that's why I didn't send it. And I think that she's dangerous. I'm going to use the horse you have third. I have second, little Lindsay a little bit. And I'm not knocking Katie. She rode this horse perfectly last time. She sucked last time.
She was flat.
She was bad. Now, it wasn't Katie's fault what happened 2 back.
Yeah.
Trainer wanted her to
Yep.
be aggressive,
Yep.
and it was absolutely the
Bad
wrong move
rail.
on her.
Yeah, exactly.
And it happens sometimes. She had run well 3 races back. Now, I don't have any confidence in her off her last race, but I got to use her again because I don't
This
trust
field
the
is
1 and
tough.
4.
This is probably, to me at least, the toughest handicapping puzzle on the card because I don't love the 2 short prices. There are a couple horses I
They
don't...
can win, but I don't
Right.
love them either.
There are a couple horses I don't think have any real chance. Quick Power Nap being one of them, as well as George's Vice. Then we get to Foxy Cara. I can't pick that horse. Then we get to...
See, I'd have Foxy Cara as a C in here.
Yeah?
I don't know. I think her last races have been okay, so she finally won a race. Maybe she'll win again. I think she's a little slow. That's why I wouldn't use her, but she's not awful.
She's not awful. She's been kind of consistent.
Let me put this, but here's the thing about her, just to be fair. This is why I would use her as a C. I got the 1 third, you've got the 1 second. Yeah, the 1 is a more likely winner. 1 did not run better than she did 2 races back.
No, that's a fair point.
So if you think the 1 at 5-2 is usable, why wouldn't you use her at 10 or 15-1 somewhere on your tickets?
She's not going to be as forward, and she took a longer time to break her maiden.
I
But
got to tell you something. The 1's going to, in all likelihood, the 1's supposed to have to do some running to be forward because Jose Lezcano or Dylan Davis, one of those 2
Should
are
go.
supposed to be forward enough that if Los Busted wants to go, she's not going to be going her usual slow pace.
that's a good point. What about Mim? I feel like there's a race for this horse that she could win at a decent price, but I don't know if it's this one. But I didn't want to completely discount her in any way because there are some races recently that could make her a little
Has
bit
David
competitive.
finally given up on her?
I don't
If
know.
David's finally given up on
Then
Mim,
today's the day?
I'm done. No, I'm done with Mim because he's Mim's loyalist supporter. I thought she was picking up pieces 2 back and should have been second in that race, and she was dreadful last time. So
Yeah.
I can't use her, but
Yeah.
you know, and I get it. If you think this race is going to fall apart, I guess she has a chance in here. We'll see. I suppose if you think it's going to fall apart, I think she has a chance. I'd take Foxy Cara over her probably, but
Okay.
whatever. Race number 8 closed out. Big scratch in race number 8
Yeah.
when American Law came out. We'll take a look at Gentleman Joe, who you have on top, for David Jacobson off the claim.
Yeah, I mean,
Who knows?
look, this is
Just roll
a
the
situation.
dice.
Exactly. This was a contentious pace in his last start. He was the last man standing of the forwardly placed horses. He was run down by alternate reality. And while this is a tougher field than that, I think, his start before that was off a layoff. He was protected for the waiver in there when he won. And now going first off the claim for Jacobson, to me, you don't claim an 8-year-old gelding for $40,000 if you don't think that he has some more good races to offer.
Yeah, I know. You're going to now come up with great logic for why David Jacobson makes claims. He has made some crazy claims. I mean, with all due respect, David, I think you'll agree. You've made some crazy claims in the past. He's also made some amazing claims, like strapping groom, and he won a grade 1 in the next start. But you really think there was some deep discussion? Well, he's an 8-year-old gelding. Should we? Okay, good luck with that.
He has a plethora of back races that make him a player in here.
course.
He has tactical ability. I mean, it's not just that.
The
but
speed
I thought,
scratched.
right. I mean, I just thought that this was a situation where, to me, I would not dip in for this horse if I didn't think that I could then go.
You got a
do
spare
something with
40?
him.
The horse was
Yeah.
claimed for 20. He was in a waiver for 25, and then he took him for 40. I wish him the best of luck. I think it's a crazy claim, personally, but it's David Jacobson. Nothing will surprise me, and I've got him in there as well and would use him. There's a good entry. You've got Optic Way, who's speed, and now with the 6 scratched, you know, he's going to be forward in here. Rudy scratched Mason Mania and 6% out of an easier spot to run in a tougher spot today. Don't quite get that one now. It got a little easier with the scratch of American Law, but nonetheless, I think the entry's a little bit dangerous. I'm not dying to take Bold Victory claim from Dutrow, but you've got a speed and you've got a closer, so they're dangerous. I'm going to give Skylander a chance in here. He's just been in tougher spots, as it turns out. And I don't think he's run great, but I don't think he's run that badly in those races. He had no shot in the toboggan, and even last time out, it was basically a two-speed
field.
number around the track, impossible to close. And you look at his prior races, he had run reasonably well. It seems like he's somewhat held his form. I don't love him in here, but he'll be a fair enough price. Obviously, the board will be changing, but he'll still probably be in the 4-to-1 to 5-to-1 range, which I think is good enough in this spot. I just didn't love anybody here.
Yeah,
to be
me
honest with you.
either. And I mean, when you look at his races, 3 and 4 back before he went to the bench, those both compete here.
Oh, of course, but I don't know. There's races his last 2 races are that far from being competitive here, and they were tougher spots, and they were muddy sealed track, wet sealed track. So
Yeah, I
gets
picked
in
him
dry
second.
track. He's
I think he's
obviously
worth a look.
he's a player in here. We'll see what happens. Pick 6 carryover, 75,633. Play it through Naira Bets. Head on over. Use the promo code BONUS200. We will match for $200 of your initial deposit. Oaks Pool this weekend, right?
Maybe.
I know. I may be betting on a horse in the Oaks Pool.
I know that you've got a good Derby future.
I do. I have equity. I don't think I'm going to cash it, but I have equity. Yes, I can get 4-to-1 for my money now, I think. When you take 107-to-1, and you might have like 3 times your bet's equity. I'm not sure you made a great bet. Check out the track stats at Naira Bets with all those hearts for Joel. We have a pick 6 carries, we mentioned, 75,633, race number 3 through 8 on our 8-race card. We have $15 bonus, opt-in, $50 or more at Aqueduct, Oaklawn, and Santa Anita. We also have cross country pick 5, races 7, 8 here, 8, 9, 10 at Oaklawn. I think all those races will be on America's Day at the Races as well, which begins at 1 o'clock, 1 until 6 today, America's Day at the Races, FS2. Sarah, thank you very much. Thank you. Chris Griffin, thanking you in advance. He's up next, the reprise, scratches and changes.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.